Okay, it looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone. Hope that everybody's having an amazing Thursday. I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon, and so far, you've had a wonderful week. It is hoodie season, it is getting chilly out there, so I hope that all of us are staying warm. Today, I'm really excited to be able to talk about the topic that we're going to talk about, which is leadership. And obviously, why sometimes you have to be the leader, even though at that time it feels like it's the most uncomfortable thing that you can do. If you don't know by now, my name is Will Zapata. Here with Apollo Energy, I've had the pleasure of helping families convert their home over into solar power and basically help families become more independent from the utility company and establish freedom, not just for themselves, but for their future generation as well. Not just that, primarily here, we love to talk about, financial freedom, fatherhood, parenting, physical fitness, mental, spiritual fitness. Overall, what we're looking to do is help one another and build a community where we can be the best versions of ourselves. As I mentioned before, I do believe that we were endowed with incredible abilities from the Creator so that way we can be of service to our fellow human beings. So, for today, what I want to be able to get into again is talking about leadership, how you can be a real leader when the situation may not call for it, or you may not feel like you're in a position to lead, right? And obviously how you can go ahead and pass on and be a leader to other people. you know, I think that besides parenting, where I've gotten some of the biggest feedback or the biggest advice or the biggest lessons on how to be a leader, it has been, working here at Apollo Energy. Basically, the way that we look at it, being a leader isn't about the title that you have. It's not about how long you've been in a business, in an industry, at a company, or at a job. Being a leader is about the actions that you take day in and day out to be able to not only help yourself but help the people around you and obviously be a pillar to your own community. So the first part is like, why do leaders go first, right? Why are leaders the first one to take the first step or the first ones to walk into the unknown? And really the reason behind that is because leaders have to be the one to show courage, right? At the end of the day, when you're deciding to be a leader, whether it's a leader in your family, in your church, in your community, at your work, wherever it is, right? Because remember, being a leader is not about the title that you have, but it's about the actions that you take. You're typically going to be the first one to want to go ahead and take that step, right? The way that I look at it, right, is that when you decide that you want to be a leader, you're deciding that you want to be the one to be a foundation for your family, for your generation, for whatever it is that, fills your heart with passion. One of the things that I've learned when it comes to being a leader, right, is that a leader is the person that has to show up even when they don't want to. I can tell you from my own experience in trying to build a company from the ground up, right? Most of the days, if you're really being honest with yourself, you're not going to want to show up, right? You're going to want to maybe come up with a lot of excuses. You're going to want to be the one to maybe, get a pass. Maybe you don't feel good. Maybe you're going on, maybe you have personal things that are happening in your life. But the thing is that when you decide to be a leader, and mind you, you may have consciously decided or subconsciously decided to be a leader, you start to realize that there are people that are depending on you, right? Like they are your teammates that are, hey, making sure that you want to show up, right? They are your kids that are they're looking to you to guide them through life, right? It's your coworkers, it's your spouse, right? It's the people maybe in your church or in your religious group, or maybe you're part of a community. You might already be doing things that just based on your actions are labeling you a leader. And when you kind of have all eyes on you, that gives you more of a reason to want to get up, to want to be impactful, right? To want to make sure that you're not letting anyone see you at your worst moments. It doesn't mean that you don't have them. It doesn't mean that you're not human and things can't happen to you. But what it means is that every single time, no matter what life throws at you, you're going to get up and you're going to do it with a smile. You're going to get up and you're going to do it with, with more energy than you did it before. Maybe you're going to be more enthusiastic, or maybe you're just going to be regular enthusiastic, right? Maybe you don't have to do more, but maybe it's just that you show up every single day. Listen, that is what I tell myself in my own life. Man, I could dump so much of my problems that's happening, right? And at night I tell myself reasons why I don't want to show up, and then in the morning time I tell myself reasons why I need to show up, right? Because I have my team, I have my children depending on me. I want them to look at me as somebody that didn't give up, right? You guys have probably heard this before, but I'm a huge anime fan. And the thing that I love the most about anime, or the thing that creates the greatest stories, is the fact that the people that we're rooting for, even though they took a lot of hits, even though they took a lot of L's, even though they've been defeated, they always continue to get back up, which I absolutely love. One of the lessons that leadership has taught me is that if you wait for comfort, you'll never grow. Leadership starts the moment you decide to move while uncomfortable, right? So just kind of remember that as you're going through your day to day. And remember that right now you might not think that you're a leader. You may not feel like it. You may be telling you, like, why would anybody look at me as a leader, right? Those things go through my mind all the time. But based on the actions that you're taking, you might already have people that are looking at you as a leader, and they're looking to you to be a guide to help them be better, right? You know, every uncomfortable moment is a rep. It's a teaching. It's a teaching opportunity. It's training. I always like to point everything back that happens to me in life, whether it's good or bad, and I give first and foremost thanks to the creator. Because, for example, if it's something that's really bad, or we can define how bad is, but we'll say if it's something that's extremely uncomfortable, if it's something that maybe I don't want to do, if it's something that seems extremely hard, I know that the creator is trying to teach me a lesson. There is something that I need to learn. It's like when we go to the gym, right? And we, lifting up the really heavy weights, right? And they might be super tough. It might seem like it's impossible, but you feel so remarkable after you've done it. And if you've done that enough times, maybe within 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 10 years, whatever it is, you might realize some huge results, right? Whether it's your muscle increasing, whether it's you growing, being more fit, whether it's you feeling more confident. Those are all things that at the moment they were challenging, they were very discomforting. Maybe you felt uncomfortable, maybe you felt like you didn't know what you was doing, but the fact that you were taking the first steps to do it, that's a sign of real leadership, right? For me, one of the things that I've been going through, full transparency, it's like rebuilding my business from the ground up, right? I feel super lost sometimes. Actually, most of the times I feel lost in what I'm doing. And I always ask myself, am I doing the right thing? Am I stupid for even trying to pursue this? What is really happening, right? Like the real deal, not the what Instagram shows you entrepreneurship could be, or what we think it is on social media, right? It's like the real, dirt, really getting it out the mud feeling that you're going through, right? On top of that, I have a family that also depends on me, right? I have two children, I have my spouse at home, I have people that depend on me, and they need to make sure that I can be successful. And obviously showing up for your team, right? Like even when I don't have all the answers, I still show up. Even when I don't feel like working, I still show up. Even when like I've just been getting kicked in the face non-stop, I can't, like physically I can't stop bleeding. Spiritually, I'm all bruised up and battered, I still show up. Because at the end of the day, whether it's something that's going to pay off today or pay off in the next 30 years, the small steps that I take today is the building blocks in order for me to be a leader, and a leader that's going to be able to transcend when we're no longer here. I always have it in my mind, and when I journal, I always say the stories that I'm doing, even these lives that I'm doing it for my children, for my grandchildren, for my great grandchildren, so that way they can see the real raw emotion, the real trials and tribulation that I had gone through, and how I kept pushing forward, and the reason why I kept pushing forward. Because showing up is the most important thing that you can do, even when you don't want to. Pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the bridge between who you are and who are you becoming, right? And when you're changing who you're becoming, and you're becoming a different person, and you're growing and developing, those things are going to be hard, right? Again, taking it back to a workout reference, but the reason why your muscle is able to grow is because you're tearing it and then you're repairing it, right? I didn't mean for that to rhyme. But that's why, your muscles grow, and that's why you're pushing and you go through those struggles in the gym, because you're building a new body, a new spirit, a new person for yourself, right? Now, how do we lead when things are hard? You just go first, right? You're gonna have doubt, you're gonna be scared, you're gonna be nervous, you're gonna look stupid, right? But if in spite of all of that, right, you're still able to move forward, you're going to show those around you, whether you think they're watching or not, you're going to show them a tremendous amount of courage. Courage is contagious, right? Even now, I was one of the first people in my family to kind of take the step forward of deciding to go out on his own, start his own business, and whether I realize it or not, it's changed the mentality of the people around me, right? You know, I have uncles that even though they have a full time job, they're doing a side business. I have family members that, you know, they want to start their own business. Not because it's easy, it doesn't mean that any of us are going to succeed. But again, being a leader means you have to be courageous. You have to be the first one to step into it when no one is willing to do that, right? The second thing that you can do to lead when it's hard is being transparent, man. Like, I'm not a good liar for the most part. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a good liar. And I found that when you can be 100% transparent with people, when you can be honest, right, when you can speak the truth, when you can speak with clarity, you're able to get a lot more out of people. People can actually relate to you, they can understand you. Even when I decided to, hey, I'm gonna put stuff out there, I'm gonna do things on my live stream. The reason why I did it is because I wanted to communicate transparently, right? I wanted people to know who I am, you know, behind the scenes. I wanted people to know, you know, what I do when I'm not doing solar. What am I like with my family? And it was my way of communicating with the whole world, right? It doesn't mean that my message is gonna reach everybody. It doesn't mean that my message is going to reach anybody, right? But the way that I look at it is I wanted to communicate out there into the universe the kind of person that I am, you know, and so that way when people decide to do business with me, they already have an idea of the kind of person that I am, right? You'll get to know me even more if you ever meet me in person, right? And then the last thing is stay grounded, right? When it's uncomfortable, remember why you started. If your why is strong, no storm can move you. Like just remember, right? Like I always don't try to get ahead of yourself. You know, don't make it a big deal if things are going good. Don't make it a big deal if things are going bad. Stay as grounded as you can. One of the first things that I like to do when I start my day is I have a journal entry. I use ChatGPT to basically, you know, just type in my journal entry because again, I'm doing all of this so my children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren can see the kind of person that I am, that I was. They can see, you know, hopefully how I changed for the better, and that's the whole goal. But basically, I like to stay grounded. I like to be thankful for things, right? Fundamentally, I think that for the most of us, we have basically everything that we need in life, right? Sometimes if we're just thinking about material things, we might feel like we're missing out on certain aspects of life. But the things that I'm grateful for is for me having another day, the health and well-being of my children and my parents, you know, the fact that I have food in my belly and the fact that I have a roof over my head. You know, just having those four things, like we really don't realize how blessed we are, you know, how incredibly gifted we are. And when you can start from that solid foundation, then you know that anything else that happens, right, that's better, it's icing on the cake. And as long as those four things are not harmed, you're like, well, it's not so bad. A lot of things can happen that feel terrible in the moment, right? They can be very tough to deal with. Trust me, you know, there's been moments where I've needed to let out a few tears, but I still know that those four pillars that I talked about, I have another day to be great. You know, my children are healthy, my parents are healthy, I have food and I have shelter. There's really not much more than I can ask for, right? Obviously, strive for more. It doesn't mean that you should be complacent, but basically, it means that when those hardships happen in life, because you have that solid foundation, you're able to continue to, you know, to move forward, right? Um, the way that I look at it, right, is um, leadership. Again, it's something that you're going to continue to work on. It's something that you build on, but it's basically something that is reflective of your actions, not the things that you say, right? People are not going to listen to the things you say. Like, what do people say? Talk is cheap, right? That's why action matters, right? And when I'm in my lowest moment, when I want to give up, when I'm like tired of everything that's just happening, my biggest source of light, my biggest source of warmth are going to be both of my children, right? I always say to myself, do I want to be the kind of man that, you know, my son saw gave up on life, that I didn't try to go after my dreams? You know, I tell myself, do I want to be the kind of man that my daughter doesn't look at somebody that, you know, went through life, and no matter how hard it went, he still continued to, push forward. I want to be somebody that my children can look up to. I want to make my children proud, and I know that being able to continue to move forward when life doesn't seem like it wants you to do that, or when life is putting all the anchor, all the weight on you, and you just can't get up. My children need to see me attempting to get up every single day, right? And finally, to close this all out, I would love for everybody to get an opportunity to just reflect and maybe think about where are there areas in your life, or what part of your community are you actually a leader in, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're a leader to your family, to your team, to your circle. They don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be present. They just need you to take the first step. They just need you to, even though the direction that you're going might be filled with darkness because it hasn't been walked yet, they need you to be that light that they can follow, to show them that it's possible, right? At the end of the day, like I said, we all were given gifts for us to be, helpful and servants to our fellow human beings. And it just takes a group of leaders that are, that are brave, that are, willing to, walk through the line of fire, and are willing to be a light for other people. So then that way, we can have a community of leaders, a community of people that are helping and being beneficial to one another. Just remember this: pressure is a privilege. It's proof that you've been trusted with more. If you feel like you have a lot of pressure on you, and obviously make sure that this is good pressure, right? I wouldn't want anybody to put themselves in a bad situation, but for the most part, pressure is a privilege. If you feel like you have a lot on you, if you feel like there's people that are counting on you, just understand that you've been trusted with a lot of responsibility. And like a great man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Shout out to Uncle Ben. And that just means that you've been given a wonderful responsibility to be a leader for your family, for your community, and for the people around you. So I hope that you were able to find this impactful. I know this was super great for me to do, right? Especially like the things that I said. I love talking about this, especially when I'm really living it, right? Like, this is stuff that I'm speaking from the heart. It's not like, wishy-washy things, or it's not like things to make anybody feel good. It is the truth about life. We have to continue to push forward. We have to continue to improve ourselves. And, we should all strive to be servants to our fellow human beings. So thank you all so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.